Hey, hey, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if we're live. I don't know if we're how good we are. Wherever the mic is in this test testing, there is no mini cam. Whatever. So we can reverse that a little bit. You get this? Weirdly, it says a valid source. Whatever. Hey, hey. Okay, yeah, I think we're good. All right, let's get a visual. Let's get another visual. Picture in a picture. Good morning. Okay, nice to be with you. Nice to be with you. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about. I just wondering. Few things on the discussion to be discussed. Off subject, maybe it's a little prelude. I think we could discuss something I've been thinking about, which is letters and words. And never mind. Yeah. I wanted to actually say something about what I feel is, I don't know if it's symptom. I was at my uncle's house, and man, why am I drawing blanks all of a sudden? That's interesting. But I was like, I was trying to zero in on something just now, and just like when I was wanting to bring up uh, letters and words, it's like that went blank too. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, so two blanks right off the bat. It's curious. It's a curious thing. Uh, Maybe we'll go with that. Maybe we'll go with losing your focus. Maybe we'll go with that. I think fuck that. I know what the discussion is. The discussion is in the title, which is a matter of fake realities and imposition. It's a matter of being experimented on, being the subject of an experiment, and operating within a free will to be for the purpose of the experiment to give the accurate results. So I believe there is an orchestration, and it's evident in people, their behavior, regardless of how their consciousness interacts with the orchestration, like whether it's in sync with the orchestration or whether it's not, whether people are whether they're surprised, um, hang on. Yeah, you know what time it is. Mike's hooked up. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's June.
or July. It's July. It's the day after July. So there's a few people in my life in the place where I am, and I'm reacting to like part of this vlog was actually I was looking for a my video or my cassette recorder, little tape recorder that I would put down as in audio, and I would upload, or I would record kind of a monologue or soliloquy and try to narrow down what I was thinking later. And part of what I was going to say was talking about this guy Brad, or this guy that I know. I was walking past him. This was a while back. This was when I was kind of drinking a little bit, and I walked past him, and he said, "Hey, what's up, man?" And I hadn't seen him in a long time, and he wanted to kind of catch up. And I remember I was kind of in like a kind of like an annoyed mood at people, like most people, and I was almost anticipating the same thing coming from him, and I didn't care what he was going to say or do. So what I did is I told him like people don't want to know uh, anything. They don't want to deal with anything. They're not capable of it. There's things rigged. People aren't real. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to say. They only want to talk about the weather, the baseball or football. Like they don't know anything, and I was kind of like trying to think out loud with it at that moment, and I was kind of in like a stormy mood. Like I was like willing to like laugh while I was discussing it, and just like, ain't it bizarre? Like, ain't it hilarious that people are? And I noticed something, and this is what led to why I wanted to write down was like that part of what I think uh, is, and I wanted to maybe adapt this to a term or to a phrase or something, which is the idea of the elaborate hostage situation, right? So similar to like Truman Show, like imagine that there is a hostage situation that is extends outside of like a single room within the bondage being more than like more than physical. It's like psychological, and that the place is maybe a simulation. Maybe you are bound by your hands, but maybe you are drugged in a coma or something, and like that movie Inception or something. And but not just that. I think that the people maybe just actors. And so when I bring this up to this guy, and I forget exactly that, but it was a long time ago. It was like maybe the fall of 2018 or something. And I was just telling him that, like, I think the impetus is always the same. It's really like things are strange. People aren't like people, you know. The game is really the food is poison. Like it's a typical paranoia kind of rant, but yet at the same time, it's kind of like I remember it being like on top of the wave. In some sense, like I think about the crashing surface and like riding on top of a stable kind of articulation that people you can appreciate that if people were actively listening, they could comprehend it. Like you have enough awareness of your listener or enough empathy for them at the moment. Because that can win. You can just sink, you can go right in as a submarine and just all the way to the bottom where they can't follow. And I didn't do that. I didn't try to alienate him or nothing. I was just saying, like, people like I was just making this kind of assertion. I did it in a kind of an intense way. I was pretty enthusiastic about how shitty everybody is, and but I was making a point about. So I was making a point about this, and without, it's almost in a a deliberate, a kind of mocking attempt. He said, "Oh yeah," and he grabbed his phone and he went to look at it, like, and he was looking at it, and he was, yeah, 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 and he was doing this, and when I thought about it just now, this memory that happened last year, I realized something in that, like that, these are the moments in which something like in back in 2014, these are the moments where I start getting highly suspicious of the software or the program that I'm in. That like somebody is conducting these people and they're laughing through them at me in a way in their behavior, and I can sense their, you know and I can sense them like being like comical by, like almost sarcastically, "Oh, is that right? People are not who they should be, or not like, you know, not present in mind. Oh, is that yeah?" Yeah. Looking at their phone, and he didn't just look at his phone, dude. Like he did it in a way that was deliberately like mocking the thing I was saying. You know what I mean? So, and I thought that was just so funny, and I told him, and I was like walking by him, and I was like, "See, you're not." Like I forgot what I said, man. I wish I would have remembered it, because I remember feeling on top of that wave and feeling like I didn't crash into like an absurd, insane rant. I did kind of mention something and put it to him, and like act, and then stopped and like waited for him to say something. Not that he could. And I mentioned, I guess I mentioned something like that, like, "You're in a script." That's something I mentioned. It was like, you only know what to do based on what you've been doing and not what you wanna do," and it was all kind like, I did mention that. I did kind of like I did sort of assert that people only only wanna bounce to the fucking sing-along crap and, like, not be people. They just wanna be imitations of, and monkeys and shit, and, and I think that's what made him, whatever, and, I wanted to put this down because, it's when I get suspicious of people, I don't get suspicious because of the things I'm saying. I get suspicious that people that when you don't play along in song and lose your individuality with them, they become hostile and aggressive in a way, in like any way that works, which is like, so if nothing works in a way to discourage or to pull you back into, a simulation, like, they will just keep upping the ante with the like alienating behavior, and the kind of behavior that's meant to dishearten and discourage, uh reinforce, negatively, like, so this makes me realize, like, we are in a Matrix or a Truman Show, and that this is, or at least individuals are. I don't know, like, how much of the game is synonymous with other people's reality. I think, who knows, from a man sitting across from another man, it's like they could be in totally disparate realities, and one of them could be from the past, and the other can be from the future, and one of them can be in something real, and the other not be. I don't think that like everything in here is not real. I think that it turns on and off, it phases in and out, and that like it's all controlled through consciousness, and in people's decisions sort of reinforce your belief systems, or in or at least it reflects the necessity of a belief system, or its usefulness or its non-usefulness, in the way you keep adapting, to how, like, getting resources or going a certain way. But you know Jesus said, "Be in the world, don't be of it." And I was mentioning this to an uncle of mine last night or yesterday that he's really critical, like of if it pretty much it doesn't. I don't know what he thinks, but he like I don't know how he can justify outside of just wanting to be like just being controlled. Like I don't know how he can go like say that that's how he really thinks about something. That's just how he's been told and been programmed to think about me or people in my situation. Like he thinks I'm like I understand what I understand about what he thinks about me is like I'm a fake, that I'm a like a poser, or that I'm a like attention seeking like kid who has no true experiences outside of like what like or has no true experiences of despair or trauma, or anything. And I don't know how he gets to that without like because I'll tell him, I'm like, no, I'll like my behavior will evoke the worst in you. I've only ever evoked the worst in people anymore, and I don't get it because I'm trying to be truthful, honest, loving. I'm trying to be like um, good natured and generous in a way that's true, in a way that's like strengthening the collective as well as the individual, and like uh, and what I've noticed is that when you get in that true hope mode where like you're really on the path, or you're really like operating in the way, the demons in people's sin, or their connection to, you know, um the matrix or whatever. It's like they like it comes online, like they become the agents, and I call them demons, you know, and technically that's exactly what's happening. And they're not who they are, they're actually somebody's puppet. And whoever that is, whether it's devil, god, or aliens, it doesn't make a difference unless the it can change with how I want to respond, like how I want to feel about it. And but that is also that is sort of dependent on the last the milk like the second or two 5-second intervals of past, present, and future between like the dependency between like in relation to each moment, what's going to happen and how I see something happening. And I told him, you're yeah you're just as demonic as they are. And like I'll tell them, and I'll say yeah, okay. So we established that. I just want to do making a video logo talk about how many people are doing this, how many people are trying to come up to me and ask me about my life, or ask me like, what's going on? Hey, what's up? Hey, blah blah blah. How are you? Like, but yet not really want it. What they really want is for me to say something that they have. This is what I told that guy, Chris or Brad or whatever. I was like, you don't have a protocol for what I'm going to say. What you're asking me to say is, oh, I'm good. So where then you can say, oh, cool. You've been doing anything. But what I'm going to say, you haven't been told how to respond to it through movies, through art, through books, or anything you've been interested in. You have no idea how to respond to what I'm gonna say. And and I was like, I'm off the script, man. Like I'm not in your sing along. And so anyway, yeah, that's so people come up, and what they're really asking you to do when they say how are you, it's like sing along with me, like be conventional, be a normie, be a non version, a non person, uh and it's some chemical, like, it's just some sort of demonstration of, like, your willingness to submit for the whole, like, to join, like, it's kind of a way of joining something, but it's arbitrary, uh, and another guy came up to me and was like, "How's it going, man?" I was like, "Man, it's really strange, man. There's something really weird going on with everybody. Like, the food's fucked up. People seem way anxious for, like, things seem like they're about to explode, and, like, people aren't genuine, and there's no true courage or honesty, and people don't know how to address anything, and, like, I mean, I didn't go into all of this, but it was similar to this, where I was just going, "Man, it's weird, ain't it?" Like, it seems like there's a lot of weirdness, and he's like, "What do you mean?" I was going into it, and and, uh, and then he didn't know what to say, and I was like, "See? You don't like," and I said, "If you wanna come up to me, you wanna synchronize? You wanna synchronize? We'll get on my level, man. Like, I'm not coming down. I'm not going backward. We're not gonna have the same fucking conversation, so where you can feel bad about it later, or, like, feel like nothing's happening in your life, and, like, it's like people are setting this up so where they don't, like, so where everybody's sick, it's like they're just running the program, dude, that they were told to. And anyway, so but I mean, I want to make a list, man. Like, there's literally, well, since I've been home, I've ran into multiple people, from two girls who work at a coffee shop, Chelsea, and uh, a girl named Taryn. These girls have made indications that they're open for a relationship, or like a conversations, and they're not. They have no capacity to go outside of anything that they're not regularly doing, without feeling utterly, like, uncomfortable or out of their element, and then so it just makes me feel awkward. And then they are so capable, they are so willing to throw me under the bus and make it like he's just weird, or like he's like, it's too easy shit. It's so easy that what they do, it's like they just kind of ignore and do that, like, I cleared, like, at, like, Valley Girl, even though they would detest that, like, they would hate that, but that's exactly the protocol that they get to, like, deflect a sincere person being themselves, and, like, not, like, imitating something that they know, so where they know what to do next, and, like, fucking, whatever. But, like, I just want to make a list of this and just go down the line of, like, who's done it. Wes came up to me, like, these girls will say, hey, how are you? What's that? Like, you know, what are you doing? Let's get numbers. Whatever. Like, Frankie will do this. Um, who else? Who else? Chris from Giovanni's will make this, like, these illusions, these illusion, and I mean that, like, ALL is this allusion to friendliness, and this allusion to fellowship, and this allusion to working together, or doing something interesting or positive, or becoming, like, growing in some forward way or onward way, and none of it is material, like, none of it is real, and it's also meant to get you into a state of anticipation for them again, and we know what you are. You are all just bitches of a matrix that is saying, like, let's have a multi-tab of, like, things to do, and we're going to choose by personal preference, and priority of success, of whatever that material success is, and we're going to go from that tab first, and then if that doesn't work, then the next tab down. So if you're not in, like, what they if you get a girl's number, and she's texting you or something, and she's, like, not responding, you better be aware that she's texting somebody else, and if that doesn't work, that's when she texts you, or when that conversation's done, she's keeping you alive. She's keeping you on the reel because, like, just like women, it's like they're just prospect fishing. They're casting multiple nets, and I think that's what people are doing too. It's like when they're bored or when they're done with who they really like or who they really respect, and they start coming to you. So if people aren't interested in you, the chances are it's like they don't respect the values that you have, and they have too many friends anyway. So many friends that they can't really get to know or keep up or help accurately or genuinely their own friends due to the bandwidth limitation, and so they're spreading it all out to be as and I think it's a real indication of like being desperate for success and like and afraid of death and afraid of loss of status and loss of jobs and stuff. Like people are only acting in a way to preserve their shit, and it's a real like material world priority, but beyond kind of a, what would you call, kind of a depth of character priority. Like they don't like they're here for a totally different reason, and I don't think it's a reason at all. I think it's kind of the default mode. Uh, but and I mean, just bang, 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 everybody. There's a girl down at Gino's who every time I'm there, we talk about music, and it seems okay. This is what's so fascinating about people, and this has happened with my uncle Brent here lately. Is like talking about wanting to go on the road and create a road show, create like music and tour it and like meet people and get out of this area for a while because he's talking about futility and loss of motivation and apathy and how he's kind of drowning in meaninglessness or aimlessness. And I'm like, well, this is what I'm gonna do. And like he's like, yeah, I'm gonna come with you. And like there's this happens all the time with almost everybody, including the girls down there. Hey, you want to get together? Sure, yeah, let's do something sometime. There's so much fake, like false. Uh, what would you call that? It's like a false desire, a projection of some like what you want and what you are. This happens with my family where people call me and they don't really want to talk. They really just want to sign in and sign out. Like it's like they have it's like they have a, like they're required to do it at a limitation. It's like they're not really required. Like they're only doing the minimum because they know like if they don't do the minimum, then it like they can't put it back on me for when like I don't know, like it's such a bullshit system of people, and but it ends up ramping up to some absurd level where people like my uncle, who is a genuine, like I feel like has a genuine capacity for cool things, and he has, but and we plan all these things, and in a week, and then I'll call him throughout the week, and he won't answer. And I know, like, I'm calling him in different sections of the day, and I'm like, "Of course you see this, and of course we had like we were gonna do something, and that you have to follow up with your end of it, and like the fact that you are not calling me back." So that's interesting, right? Like, okay, so then I mean, I'm calling him all week because we're supposed to do like multiple things, uh, and then he'll call me like at midnight, and I'm sleeping once. Have this vague message on the messenger thing talking about he's been working all this excuse, all this flakiness. I call him super flake now because it's just the genius at it. And this place has always been like that. My hometown has always been like full of like broken promises and people, their words meaning nothing at all. And I think I said something recently to myself about this, like how to feel about this, like kind of consoling myself of being like, like people here deserve the people here. Like, you deserve to live with the people here. Like, my uncle lived with a woman who hated his guts, cheated on him, made it so where he would live within the same house as the person that's cheating. She's cheating with, and just to fucking ruin him emotionally. And I've come to a realization about some of that, which is you haven't had enough. Like, you haven't had enough of that. Like, you deserve more. Like, you know, if you still don't know what's most important after all of that, still don't have your values in order. If you still haven't recognized like how evil works and how good we should counter it, you know, you deserve to be down there. You're just you're an accessory to the evil. Like, you know, so that's how I feel. It's like when these people ditch my calls, it's like it's all to like provoke a certain sense of like multi interpretive paralysis of like thinking like, why would they not do that? Like, how odd that is. Like, it's all meant to like kind of tilt your head and go like, why? What? You know, it doesn't make sense. But it does make sense in the sense that it's a protocol to like to blockade, uh, and also like evoke this like kind of weird emotional response of like, you son of a bitch, like, you piece of like, what a piece of shit, you know, to like set all this stuff up, then ditch it, and then go around acting like I'm like wrong about something. Like, if I'm calling you like continuously, at some level, I went through about 4 different phases of thinking about it, you know, and one of them was like mad, one of them was like humor, like one of them was like I was sort of you know, I found it funny. Like, I was still mad about it, but the emphasis was kind of like, I mean, it was, I was just like, I would call him like 3 times in a row and be like, just to say, look at this. Like, how funny is this? Because I know you're there. I'm calling you 3 times in a row because I don't give a fuck. Like, and I'm going like, you think, if you think I won't call you, you know, like that's not good form, or like I might come off needy or whatever. Like, I know that's what I'm supposed to look like if I call every day and you don't return the call. But I'm here to say like, oh, I'm gonna transcend that and go like, no, I'm gonna go ahead and call you a million fucking times and like totally welcome that false impression of myself, and then go like, because I know I'm more than that. I'm not fucking needy. I went a whole year without talking to these people. You know, it's like, if you know, it's your problem. It's not my problem. It's like, my problem is, yeah, I spent a whole year alone, and then, you know, and now I'm reaching out and you're reaching back. So then when I reach down, you pull your hand away, like, you know, and then so the more I reach, the more you don't want like, you pull away, and like, so then I'm going, okay, let me get as close as possible. Like, I'm gonna try to chase you down, and I try to chase them down, and the way they run away gives it no illusion. There's no open interpretation. It's like, no, you're making this hard. Like, you're making this wrong. You're making this not make sense, you know, and like, I'm just doing it to clear that up and go like, check this out. Look at what you've done, and go like, ain't this something? You know what I mean? And then I'll go into a whole nother like 50% of it just being like kind of like not mad, right? Like, and one of them is just disengage, and like, you know, there's a final disengagement with most of these people, and most of the matrix is just like detach utterly and be kind of sweet about it, and be kind of like but at the same time be like non-committal, like being absolutely non we say like non-generous about it anymore, like, but yet being kind and non-generous. It's like, no thanks, and no explanation required, for when they come up and try to do it again. This is something I want to mention about like most people is that you'll meet them, you'll see them somewhere, and they'll want to say something like they want to say like, "Hey, let's do something." You're like, "Okay, yeah, let's do something." Like I've done this. Brandon Freeman is the guy who like I know, and he does this a lot. Where every time I see him, he's like, "Yeah, let's get together," and then he doesn't. And it reminds me of that movie, the Goods, with the black guy, Craig Robinson, who's like a contrarian DJ who like if anybody ever asks him to play something, he'll be like, "You read my mind," and then like Stoneface plays something utterly different, and then he has this like inner like this quiet like mantra of like every day they will test you, and it just reminds me of that. Like, oh yeah, totally, like fake out, like a total psycho. Like so, I don't know where people really stand, and like they don't at any level they look they're just utterly suspicious to me. Like they are utterly almost non-human. Like this, they might as well be like empty. Like I might as well be looking at something that has no organs in it. Like I don't believe that there's a brain even but behind their skull or that there's history. I think that it's all a false impression. I think it's like a projection or a mirage or some hologram of like and yeah, I don't believe it. I don't buy it. So this is hilarious. And that sense of like, this is how I felt in Toledo too, and what led to kind of a breakdown because the more I started to the more I started to detect kind of all this anomaly and all this like kind of unfairness in this non-sequence of nonsensicalness. Um, yeah, I just started to say like, wow, all right. Like if that's how it's gonna be, then I guess I gotta die because I wasn't gonna keep a job because everybody I knew was at some level undermining what I was doing and making it hard and making it so where it was impossible to succeed and like you have no support or like yeah, and there's attacks from every angle. It's just hilarious at this stage. So, because I had like lost my job, gotten in a fight, with girlfriend cheated on me, got a ticket from the cops, all within like the same 5 hour period, and one day, and it's like those movies that start with that, when it's like some Ben Stiller guy who's just like getting like the screws put to him, and it's like this is a movie, this is written to be comical or to test or to show like who this guy is or something. It's like I feel in the Truman Show in this way that like part of part of my experience with people seems totally scripted on their part, and on my part, it seems like like it's supposed to test what I'm going to do, like in the face of that, and like how much can I, like those sociological trials where it's like the test is to see if a guy will change his mind if if somebody wrote the letter K on the chalkboard and then everybody says it's B, like and it comes to him. So well, what's the letter? And like he'll be like K, and they'll be like they'll look at him and he'll change his mind to B out of the like fear of being the outsider or something. I don't think I've ever had that because I feel deep down that the people around me are maladapted and that they're kind of sick in that they're insane in a kind of a polite way, and that they're just a part of an asylum that's bigger than the institutions that I've ever been in, and like I think I'm just kind of been holding on to a strange authenticity that has preserved me in some things and also kind of ripped me from like being um, mandated or being a part of some kind of like story that I have no control in. But if I choose to live here, like that's on me. Like if I choose to live with people that do this and I don't leave, that's suicide. I think they will kill me, and I think that's what they'll do. It's like they'll make it so where I'm like totally impoverished. And I don't have any chance of like having any respect, and like that's what they'll do. So and I think that's all systematic. I don't know how it's playing out, but it is, and I think that's why people with my condition end up being like homeless or being, you know, transient, is because they end up out trying to run away from being like bullied into committing an atrocity, you know, and like being cornered. So it's like sleeping outside or just being homeless or being running away is kind of a way of not wanting to react in proportion to the level of like injustice, you know, and like feel your vengeance, want to like counter it. Anyway, that's all I got. Like there's so many people on this list of people who come up and like make these like phony, you know, feminist society polite attempts at wanting to do something when they don't want to do it. That you know, I've hit them with multiple shits of like I like walking by them now, just like walking straight by them like they're not there. I think that's the most accurate way to deal with them. Although I don't want to like even provoke some like hostility because I think maybe that's a part of the protocol. I think is to feel like they're gonna find out who I am, and like that's how they feel, and then they're like when they do, like they get mad, and that's like all people know how to do is is have drama and like play in that game. It's like they'll only do what they're good at. So I don't want to play those games, and I don't, and I choose not to. And I'm trying to create a different game, and I get principles, man, now from the Bible, and like this, you know, wherever I'm gonna end up, man, it won't be the places that I've been. Yeah, I think Phoenix was a pretty like normative city. Like it felt like things could work out there. Like there were certain people there that like things didn't fall flat or not work totally. And I'd imagine that if there's a spectrum like that, you know, like where you know, that's a you know, Jordan Peterson is the same. It's like if you're in a place where everything you do doesn't work, like that's hell or that's chaos. That's a dominion of chaos, and like order doesn't have any like reign over it. And like there's some kind of there's some kind of confrontation that has to be had in these places, like where you get to confront this like malady dragon of like it, you know, this ethereal conscious plague that's on this place. And that's what I think the Pennywise, the clown, is. Anyway,